Of course, many people, perhaps including you, are waiting for this, but to better prepare ourselves ahead of to end the social restrictions plan and what to do during the holidays, we will now talk with Professor Tjandra here in our studio. Hi, Professor.
Hello.
Welcome back to See Today's studio.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me again.
Yes, you're looking great and you're looking healthy. That's the most important thing.
Thank you.
But as we know, the government is planning to lift these social restrictions. What's your thought on this?
See, there are two things. Number one, as the president said, number of cases and number of deaths in our country now is declining. It's become very low. But that's not all. Globally, we have COVID from 2019. It's already almost 3 years now. And usually from time to time, the DG of WHO said, COVID is still with us, please be careful, we have to be cautious, etc. But starting September this year, he's already said the end of pandemic is inside.
Very close, yes.
And then I think December 14 or December 15, he clearly mentioned that we do hope that in 2023, at least the emergency part of COVID hopefully will be end. So in a sense, globally as well as Indonesia, this situation is very much kind of controllable. Of course, I know you will ask me about China anyway, but in general, the global situation of COVID is much better now compared to previous months ago or even last year. So that's why if there is a kind of loosen of some restriction, it is very understandable. In Indonesia as well as already happening in other countries as well.
All right.
Yes, so Professor, hi. We know that the trend now is you've been just mentioning it too, that it's getting better, it's coming down. But of course, I personally too have some concerns, and I know I'm talking not just for myself here. We know that we still have to be very, very careful with COVID. So now with the restrictions being eased, and we want to also, you also again mentioned it just now, I want to learn from China, I want to learn from the United States where the cases are spiking up again when they're loosening up their restrictions. What are your thoughts on this?
No, the ease of the restriction, the loosen of restriction does not mean that our behavior will be the same as 2019. No, that's not the case.
Okay.
Even though there is a loosen of that restriction, easing of that PPKM, I do not know what is the good terminology in English. Anyway, so because one of the discussion is about holiday season right now.
Yes.
So even if there is no PPKM whatsoever later on, but if there is still a risk of getting disease, mask is still needed, of course. Right. I'm already 67 now, so I'm quite a high risk situation in a sense. So if I'm a situation that I thought that might be infected by something, so mask is still needed. That's number one. Washing hand, whether it is COVID or not COVID, is still needed for many kind of disease prevention. So it should be there. Vaccination, whether vaccination of COVID, vaccination of other diseases, is still we have to do it. So ease the restriction or loosen the restriction does not mean that we don't care anything about health whatsoever.
So it's about the people's behavior who need to understand that after the pandemic, it really teaches us a lot of things, especially how to be aware of this, viruses and all that. As you mentioned before, we need to change our behavior. And as we know, there are a lot of elderlies in the country as well. I just told you that my father just had COVID-19, and it wasn't as easy as people thought that, Omicron is really light. Apparently, he got what the Delta type like. So what would you suggest for people, especially the elderlies, during this, shifting from the pandemic to endemic?
So, before COVID-19, we have a pandemic of H1N1. That pandemic of H1N1 was in 2009 until 2010. So on 2010, WHO declared pandemic of that one is ended. Right. But there's three notes that the DG said at that time. And these three notes will happen also if pandemic COVID is end. Number one, the virus will still be there. The virus of H1N1 is still be there. She said, because at that time the DG was a she, she said the H1N1 virus is still there. And up to today, 12 years after that, the virus. So that means the COVID virus, the SARS-CoV-2, if the pandemic ends, the virus will still be there. That means people will still get sick. And if it is elderly or very heavy comorbid, they might die. But number is very controllable. Situation will not be, like panic like this. So, but the virus will still be there. So people have still to know that this is we have a new quote unquote new disease now. That is number one. Number two, that time it was mentioned that there are several questions that cannot be answered yet. It will happen also for this COVID-19. One is talking about your father. What will be, for instance, now everybody talking, not everybody, many people now talking about the long COVID phenomena.
That's right.
So after COVID, that's why I asked just now, your father, luckily, okay, but is there anything happening after that? COVID is 3 years. Long COVID, usually we have to know what will be the impact after 5 years, 10 years. We still have to wait. So there will be still many questions. One is long COVID, whether vaccination is still be repeated or not.
Right.
There are several things to be answered after that. And the third one, even after COVID, we have to vigilance for another outbreak.
That's right.
Another outbreak will be there. Another pandemic even will be there. We only do not know two things. We do not know what kind of disease, and we do not know when. But we have to be prepared better, so we can avoid the situation like we had in COVID-19.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
So, Professor, you're talking about preparing better, and of course, the viruses, the COVID is always going to be here, even though the pandemic is going to be deemed it's over. But how would you suggest that we're preparing ourselves better, other than, of course, the basic stuff is wearing your mask, washing your hands, because we don't know what kind of
the basic stuff. The basic stuff is not the basic stuff. Is give priority to our health. Usually we give priority to our, of course, you give priority to your very nice suit,
right?
Give priority to anything else, a working environment. That's of course very much important.
Yes.
But please give priority to your health. It depends on what kind of situation, of course, but give priority to your health. I keep mentioning, if people have a car or motorcycle, they have to check that car every 5 kilometers, 5,000, etc. But do you check your body every?
You're right.
Yes.
We don't really do that.
So those kind of
Sadly.
so give priority to your health.
You hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. That's very important. But we heard that there might be new variants. How do we anticipate, new variant of COVID-19?
Okay, so.
Yeah, we don't have the latest invention of this vaccine yet here in the country.
The possible of three new variant, there are three possibilities. One is the scenario called the base scenario, the standard scenario, where the new variant is something like now. There might be new variant, but not as dangerous as earlier, and can be treated. Can be protected by the COVID vaccination, etc. That is the base scenario, and we do hope. And up to now, the base scenario is still ongoing. There is the second scenario is the best scenario. That's even better. So the new variant will be very mild. So we don't even need to go for vaccination from time to time.
Right.
We also do, this one will have. Of course, there is still a possibility, even though very low, there will be a worse scenario where the vaccination should be,
Re-inoculated?
reformulate.
Oh, reformulate,
Yes.
yes.
So those are the possibilities. But as of now, for several months, we already have a base scenario. So we do hope that this base scenario will continue. So even there is a new variant, will be not as severe as the previous one.
That's great. Have you completed your vaccination with the booster?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
Which,
that's
how
great.
many times?
2 times.
Okay,
Two
great.
times. But I still got COVID after my third one.
Oh,
After a third jab, I still got my COVID.
Oh, you mean 2 times? That means 4 jabs.
4 jabs total for me.
Okay.
And I've only got COVID 1 time, luckily.
Okay.
But I got it right like a month after I got my 3rd jab. So again, like you said, Professor, you really have to take care of yourself. It doesn't matter whether you have the vaccine or not, but if you're not taking care of yourself, you're being fit, eating all the nutritious food and everything, I don't think it's going to matter a lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we heard, we talked about the elderlies, and now it's the season holidays. How do we anticipate this? A lot of elderlies are probably bored as well at home and they want to travel. But what kind of steps do we need to take just to anticipate they don't get infected, even if it's already Omicron? And most people get it lighter than before.
Yeah, if you are talking about COVID, so we still have those 3S. In Indonesian we call it 3M, but in English I think we call it 3S.
3 W's, the wash your hands.
3 W's, okay, 3 W's. Wash your hands should always be there. And wear a mask if it is needed. I just give my own experience. I just told you that every Sunday I'm doing a bicycle ride from Cipete to the office. But on the bicycle, I will not wear mask.
You didn't?
But if I stop and see, those street vendor, I will wear my mask.
Yeah, because the bicycle riders, they usually want to, have a coffee shop time,
Yeah.
and they take off their masks
That's
and
where
all
you
that.
have to be
No,
careful.
not for me, but anyway, so
Yeah.
if I stop or if I talk to somebody, I will wear my mask. So for this holiday season, people traveling by bus or by train, my suggestion is still wear the mask.
What about if they go abroad, like to other countries? For example, in the UAE, I just came back from the UAE, nobody wore masks. And now, Indonesian people, they like to go to Japan. And maybe the situation is different like what we have here in the country.
My daughter is in New York. So the mayor of New York, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, just said, because of this holiday season, please wear your mask. So that's in New York. So she told me that even though not so much, but usually there's almost nobody people wearing masks in the subway of New York. But now some people are still are begin to wearing masks. So because you're talking about elderly,
Yeah.
So-called high-risk population, for those of high-risk population, better we prevent the possible contagious diseases we have. So wearing mask for me, as I said, on the bicycle I will not wear it, but when I stop I wear it.
Yeah, for a country like Indonesia, for example, and we saw, learnings from America and also from China, where after they stopped the social restrictions, the wave spiking up again, the COVID cases have spiked again. How can we learn from them? I mean, what anticipations?
No, because the discussion now is about China, because America they stopped the restriction quite several months ago or even last year. So there's no quite spike in most of the countries. Of course, China, the reported in the media, there was a quite spike, and their vaccination rate is also quite high.
Yeah.
I just checked this morning, their vaccination rate is about almost 90%. So there should be some specific analysis what happened in China. We do not know yet.
Yeah.
But in general, country, as you just mentioned, you just come back from UAE, there's no restriction whatsoever there.
Yeah.
So but there was no spike. I'm sure there was no spike. Maybe there is some increasing, but not as high as in China. So in general, we could say that the ease of restriction happening in many countries, there is no very high spike. Of course, there might be some increase of cases. That's why the health facilities should be ready. But we based on many countries' experience, looks like now is quite a time to ease the restriction.
All right. So even though we're very close to the endemic, but taking care of ourselves, especially making sure that we are healthy, we take good food, and also we exercise just to make sure we don't get viruses, and take the notes from the Director General of WHO. The endemic is not without the notes, because as you mentioned, every pandemic has notes after it is ended, right? Okay, but at least it's a good news. We can have holidays.
We're hoping,
Yeah?
we're looking forward to it.
We're looking forward. All right, we still have a lot of information, right, Ranga, after the break, so don't go anywhere, because after the break we still have Rory, who's going to bring you the latest from the world of business. So don't go anywhere.